Brakti Shai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Shai, Kol Haloyim, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakatash. This is another digital epistle to the 12 tribes of Israel. Double honors to the apostles and the elders who've been laboring in this truth and who, well, in sincerity, who've been. Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the Holy One, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will, and set it over it the basis of men.
Some of the documents showing the white races of Europe, and we can get a better perspective as to who the Moors were fighting. These are the albinos and the beasts of Europe. And the Moors were fighting these people for hundreds of years prior to the so-called transatlantic slave trade. And one interesting thing I wanted to show you is that when you look at these beasts and albinos and how they have achieved what they've been able to achieve in just a few hundred years, keeping in mind that they were considered wild men just a few hundred years ago, and they had no last names. Many of them didn't even have first names. And I wanted to show you this because I found this very interesting. If you see here the wild men, and you look at the clothing that the people are wearing to the left, you can see here they're wearing this clothing to cover up their hairy bodies. So I found that very interesting. And something else I found in the British Library was one of the oldest genealogy charts, one of the first ones made for white people. And as you can see at the bottom of that genealogy chart, you see two wild men. So they're showing that their ancestry comes from the caveman. So that should give you something to think about, considering that just a few hundred years later, today, we have people like the Queen of England who claim to be of the royal bloodline of Egyptians and Cushites who ruled the earth. They even found the remains of a boy who was buried at Stonehenge in Europe. He was buried in Europe, but he actually came from the Mediterranean Sea in Africa. And he came to Europe 3,500 years ago. So that's in 1500 BC. So we're told that the Moors arrived in Europe in 700 AD.
Like I have told you before, the Moors have beat you senseless. They beat the beast out of you. They civilized you. The Moors took you from your wild state, gave you religion, gave you so much religion that you perceived yourself as these gods. We adorned you with the finest attire, covered your naked parts, taught you workmanship, made you shave your excess hair, took you from your fours, made you stand upright, and gave you nobility. We made you kings over your own, and you started to make genealogies. But always remember, naturality will always return.
Genesis 27:34. And when Esau heard these words of his father, and cried with great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also my father. He said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and he hath took it taken away from me, even though he sold it already, you know. He said, Is not rightly named Jacob, supplanter, finesser? For he supplanted me these 2 times. So you already you already made a deal, you lost. But it's to his spirit. He took my birthright. Behold, he hath taken my blessing. He said, Hath thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and his brethren I have given and all his brethren I have given to him for servants. With corn and wine have I sustained him. For what shall I do unto thee now? He already gave the blessing. He already gave the blessing of everything. To be prince of God, to be prince of power, that priesthood, that royal lineage, that priesthood, that nation and king and priest. He gave it already. So what else is left? Esau crying. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, the oil, the fertile, the best, the dew of heaven. So man, you're going to get Israel. And thou shalt live by thy sword, and by thy sword thou shalt live, and shall serve thy brother. And it happened. You know, kind of David, and through the Spirit, these the prophecies are multifold. It also happened during the fall of the fall of the Edomite Roman Empire, and Jake taking over, and bringing in the Holy Roman Empire. And it shall come to pass that when thou have broken the dominion from his neck, it will come to pass that thou shalt have dominion, and that thou shalt have broken his yoke from off his neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of his blessing, wherein his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, These days of mourning for my father are at hand, then I'll slay my brother Jacob. And these words Esau, her elder son, were told Rebekah. She sent and called her younger brother Jacob and said, Behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, though thou comfort himself, purposing to kill.
Mello open again. For the three. I heard he's starring in the next superhero blockbuster. They're calling him Mellow Man. Mellow Man. I heard he's got a tattoo that says not from here.
I heard he's one.
I'm the only one.
Ezekiel 35. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore as I live, saith the Lord God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men. In thy hills, and in thy valleys, and in all thy rivers, shall they fall that are slain with the sword. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy city shall not return, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. Because thou hast said, These two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. Therefore as I live, saith the Lord God, I will even do according to thine anger, and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them. And I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies, which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, They are laid desolate, they are given us to consume. Thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. Thus saith the Lord God, When the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate, as thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am the Lord.
Malachi 1:2. I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh. Yet ye say, Wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord Yahweh? Yet I have loved Jacob, and I have hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished. We will return and rebuild the desolate places, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, of armies of troops. They shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the borders of wickedness, the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. You know, and these Edomites, they took that Greco-Roman architecture. They carried it through all their empires. Even when they were pushed out, they were pushed out of Rome by Septimius Severus. A lot of Edomites, made refuge in a cave, and all these Edomites continue that building technique. Some Edomites were on different levels, but the Lord brought them down. Some could commit that, design that level of architecture, but some were brought to such a beastly state, that they couldn't talk. They was grunting. Edomites would make Solomon Grundy think that he have a big vocabulary.
Toxic therapy from your vape.
I can't sleep. Listen to my.
Find that we're here in the American Dictionary of the English language. All right, this is actually Webster's right here. It's just swart, right? Almost sounds like steward. Swart, steward, swart, steward. Now, what they get steward? Did it mean black or dark? What is tapestry 1400 AD? All right, what this is showing these wild, pale-skinned people, wild, right? And they come in to invade this castle, which is filled with swarthy, dark-skinned, melanated people, all right, of dark complexion, all right, or so-called black Europeans in their castle. Black Europeans, what happened to them? They just disappeared. In arts in Boston. It's South German tapestry. It is indeed a matter for congratulation that the first German tapestry, right, the first German tapestry to be acquired for the museum should be an outstanding example of an important period in history of European tapestry weaving. The purchase of this tapestry, once a part of the Sigmaringen Hohenzollern collection, was made possible through a fund established by the bequest of Charles Potter Kling. Though precise dating of the tapestry from evidence now available is not possible, there are many reasons to believe that it was woven sometime during the last decade of the 14th century or the first decade of the 15th century, right? Historians know it's from that time period, okay? Might be even older. Medieval feudal hierarchy. Their rank and place in society is not shown by the style of their garments. Their clothes, if we may so describe the delicate Africa. This is Wild Men in the Middle Ages, a study in art, sentiment, and demonology by Richard Bernheimer, Harvard University Press. And real quick, I go to chapter 1, The Natural History of the Wild Man, just to read a little bit about this here instead. This book deals with literary and artistic figure whose imaginary character is proved by its appearance. It is a hairy man, curiously compounded of human and animal traits, without, however, sinking to the level of an ape. It exhibits upon its naked human anatomy a growth of fur, leaving bare only its face, feet, and hands, at times its knees and elbows, or the breast of the female of the species. Frequently, the creature is shown wielding a heavy club or mace, or the trunk of a tree, and since its body is usually naked except for a shaggy covering, it may hide its nudity under a strand of twisted foliage worn around the loins. Where any characteristics other than these appear, there is a possibility that instead of a wild man, we may be beholding another imaginary figure such as a devil, faun, or satyr. The creature itself may appear without its fur, its club, or its loin ornaments. Any one of its characteristics may be said to designate the species. This strange relative of Homo sapiens, a lively and sometimes pungent commentary on the bestial side of his nature, plays an astoundingly persistent, although on the whole subordinate part in the art and literature of the Middle Ages. But even though the frequency of the wild man's appearance in art and letters is not quite matched by the importance accorded to him in medieval thinking, his ubiquity must be regarded as a sign that he represented a major, if unacknowledged, trend of thought. All right, everybody was talking about this wild man. So is it really myth? His presence is like the running commentary with which a man's half-conscious imaginary accompanies his conscious ideals and aspirations, a reminder that there are basic and primitive impulses clamoring for satisfaction. Medieval literature and art are shot through with the mythology of the wild man. We find him in the clipped verses of French Arthurian romance, in the epics of German minstrel singers, and in the writings of Cervantes and Spenser. The whole vast field of late medieval secular art is his playground. From prints and paintings by Albrecht Dürer and Peter Bruegel to the love caskets and tapestries which medieval swains presented to their ladies, or the tools of chivalry, such as saddles and ornament weapons. His place in medieval daily life was assured by the appearance of his image on stove tiles, candlesticks and drinking cups, and on a larger scale, on house signs, chimneys, and the projecting beams of frame houses. His figures even invaded religious buildings, and in liturgical books, being found on the borders of illuminated manuscripts, on capitals, choir stalls, baptismal fonts, tomb plates, and as a gargoyle on the eaves of churches. All right, so you see where they found all this. So you see how the wild man is portrayed in all this history, right? And all this art and all these buildings. Is it more than just myth? Once on the facade of a Spanish church, it usurped the place which should have been given to the saints, standing full size on the jambs of its main portal. So great then was the ubiquity of the wild man in medieval life, and so wide his acceptance in art, that the question arises what function, individual and social, a figure such as this could have exerted, and what needs it could have satisfied within the framework of medieval civilization. I'm going to read from this one real quick. This book, what the images here in this book, very interesting. It says here, Wild Man, pen and ink illustration from Ballade de une homme savage, France. This is from around 1500. In the introduction of the book, it says here, thought to live in remote, mountainous, and forested regions, the wild man especially flourished in the wooded or alpine regions of the German-speaking lands, right? German, right where the tapestry was made, right? Showing these wild men in Germany trying to invade his black king and queen, such as the Harz, Fichtel, and Algo mountains of Germany. That's where the legends have them, in these mountains of Germany. The Alpine regions of Carinthia and the Tyrol in Austria, and Graubünden and Wallis in Switzerland. In many such areas, the myths have survived to this day, still celebrated in festivals, masquerades, and dramas. Not limited to these regions, however, the wild man myth thrived throughout Western and Central Europe. In these forests, the wild man was said to make his home in caves, rocky crags, dank burrows, hollows in tree trunks, and other rude places. Occasionally, he fashioned primitive hovels of branches and mud, and 11th century Hessian documents refers to such an abode as a Wilderow, Wibu, Hus, wild woman house. Toward the end of the 14th century, Heinrich von Hessler states in Die Apocalypse that the wild man lived only in places unfit for human habitation, in fens and woods, in water and in mountains, in caves and in bushes. All right, and it has all these other languages. Notions of the wild man habitat had changed little by the end of the 16th century, as Edmund Spencer's description, The Fairy Queen, indicates. Just want to go over this image right here before we continue. It says, Wild Man, detail of a manuscript illumination from the Luttrell Psalter, England, from 1335 to 1340, London, the British Library manuscript, all right? This is a photocopy from the 1300s, right? This is all over there, art. You know, how much of a myth is it? By every account, the wild man's behavior matched his primitive surroundings, strong enough to uproot trees. He was violent and aggressive, not only against wild animals, but also against his own kind. What does that sound like? His brutish, contentious nature expressed itself in a natural combativeness against which neither beast nor man was equal, though his club, and sometimes only his bare hands, was his only weapon. With his instinctive knowledge of the ways of wild beast, the wild man was skilled hunter, but in spite of his physical supremacy, shrank from contact with humans, and frequently even with his own kind. Indeed, his inept social abilities apparently limited him to only that cooperative union required for procreation. Like in agriculture, he was forced to eke out a subsistence from hunting and gathering. Though taught to crawl around on all fours, he scratched tubers and roots from the ground, picked berries and gnawed on verdure. When he killed game, he ate it completely raw. According to Chatrien de Troyes and Vain, by many accounts, the wild man also indulged in cannibalism. By the 16th century, this habit brought him into association with werewolves and other flesh eaters. Wild men were commonly thought to abduct children, but often only to fulfill parental instincts. Instances of wild folk substituting changelings for human children are also recorded. Although he was a hunter, the wild man was frequently hunted. Illustrations of the 14th century depict the wild man on all fours at bay, pursued by hounds and hunters on horseback. Incapable of speech, the wild man muttered only unintelligible sounds or none at all. I want to show some more images here. It says the wild man at bay, detail of manuscripts, illumination from Psalter of Queen of Mary, England, 1300 to 1325. All right, look at that. The wild man, all hairy, dogs going after him. It says here, wild man playing a Rebek Orpheus, wooden bread mold, Switzerland, 16th century. Okay, check it out. Shows Nebuchadnezzar cast out among the beast. Nebuchadnezzar, the wild man, detail of manuscript illumination from the Bible of San Pedro de Roda, about 1000 AD. Look at that, Paris, the wild man. And another one with Nebuchadnezzar cast out. Goes the wild man right here. And I just want to show some in color that they have in this book. Pretty cool images. We got dragons, We got the people with the face wild man, all different types of humanoids, all right, addressing these myths. The cons, come on, the Dracons. About 1400, all right, around 1400. Where's it located again? Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Two windows over the castle gate, woolly body hair and armed with stone. Right? Around 1400. Where's it located again? Boston Museum of Fine Arts. From left to right, 5 tall wild men covered with striped woolly body hair and armed with stone sticks, clubs, and fronts attack a castle peopled with small Moors. Two black defenders in long mantles, one on the near side of the moat and the other on the drawbridge, draw their bows against the aggressors. The Moorish king and queen, both crowned, watch the foray from two windows over the castle gate. 4 Moors, one in each turret, brandish weapons or gesticulate, while 4 others watch from the crenellated wall below. The castle stands in a sparse wooded grove. Emerging from the edge of the grove is a stag. In the central section, several wild men with garlands in their hair engage in struggles with various animals. One wild man grapples with a rampant lion, raising his club to deliver a blow. 2 other wild men, one with a long pole and another with a club, attempt to kill a basset-like creature, while a fourth engages a unicorn holding its horn in one hand and foreleg in the other. In the right hand section, a wild woman and 2 children, one seated on her lap and the other at her side, sit in front of the rocky outcropping. The group is approached from both sides by 3 wild men, one on a stag, another with a lion slung over his shoulder, and the third kneeling before her, offering a leg of meat. At the left, The Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link, by Lee Cummins. Says the tapestry shows that the whites lived in tree houses and caves. They were basically poor. We have an obligation, all colors of people, to seek the truth and to teach the truth.
Truth and to teach the truth, no matter how hard it is to swallow. All right.
From left to right, 5 tall wild men covered with striped woolly body hair and armed with stone sticks, clubs, and fronts attack a castle peopled with small.
When I was watching that, I was like, man, that's Job. That's Job. You know? But now, Job 30, but now they that are younger than me have me in derision, whose fathers would have disdained to set the what I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock, man. I don't like these. I don't want to be an Edomite with his dog, man. That's the first habit we're attacking, you know. Man, he was that's an outside dog, right? Not even have a pet, or even an Israelite, the Edomite children, or even the Israelite children influence. You know, might have an Edomite mother, influence the Edomites. They're out here kissing the animals, like killing your animals. That's such an aggressive animal relationship with them, but it shows how they treat people. Yeah, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age perish, for want and famine were they solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, to desolate and waste. And even in Jamestown, these were cannibals. These people didn't know how to till land like the Northern Kingdom, the so-called native here, or the Southern Kingdom. You know, they knew how to navigate here. You knew how to sustain. You know, the earth doesn't yield forth the strength towards Esau. You know, we know these settlers came here. They was cannibals. You know, who cut up the mellows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meats. Like they talked about it, and we just read, or it was just read. They were driven forth among men. They cried after them as a thief, to dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks, and among the bushes they brayed. Under the nettles they were gathered together. They were the children of fools. Yeah, children of basemen. They were viler than the earth. We're going. They were viler. To scourge, to smite, to drive away. You know, these people were. You know, they were driven away. And you know. But now I am their son, I am their byword. You know, that's Job. So now Job, reincarnated, he's being called a nigger, called a spick, a wetback. Horite, cave dweller, Aboriginal Idumean. Even though the original people who lived in the Mount Seir were the Edomites. I mean, were the Hamites. But he's stole the caves. He steal everything. He's really from his original home was Mount Seir. Then he got pushed into the Caucasus Mountains. So Revelations 22, and he laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and he bound him up 1,000 years. So the Edomite, the Roman army, the Edomite being able to amass a major empire army, that was locked up for 1,000 years. When they were sent to a low estate, whether the aristocracy were pushed into small cities or pushed into caves. These Edomites were cut off from being able to amass power and influence over the world. If they wanted to have some sort of power, they had to marry in with Jake, or they had to rise up through servitude, or they had to enslaved by an Ishmael. They had to rise up through servitude. But there was a time. And cast him into the bottomless pit, the syrup, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, that he shall deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years be fulfilled, and after that, he must be loose for a short season. This is the short season. In such a in a few hundred years, that these Edomites could come from a kid beast like state into rulership. It's because the Lord set the basis of men. Because really, especially being pushed out, the aristocracy, the Edomite aristocracy, being pushed out by Septimius Severus. They brought to real estate. And for a long time, even the Edomites, the Khazarians, they were doing so good. Jacob was warring with them heavy. Esau was warring with them heavy. Until that empire really got put down. They had to form new identities. That they had to pick a political that build identities based off of politics. Until so the Byzantines, Jake, warred well with Turks until they found a common enemy with the Persians. They intermarried. The Edomites, you could rise up through the ranks of Ishmael. Eventually they would form their own empire, the Ottoman Empire. And after 1,000 years, from 300 BC to 1200, 1300, these people start to rise back in power and be loose for a short season. Origins of the small hats. The small hats today fall within two main types: Sephardic Jew and Ashkenazi. And the Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews, which constitute 5% of the Jews of the world today. Ashkenazi are the Eastern European Jews, which are found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and West Asia. And this group makes up 90% of the so-called people today in the world. Many references and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazis, or the, have clearly identified the bulk of Ashkenazis were derived from a people known as the Khazars, or the Khazars. In some texts, the original Uish Encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the small hats came from an Asiatic people known as the Khazars. The Khazars were Turkish people Turkish origins whose life and history were interwoven with the very beginning of history and the history of Jews of Russia. Historic evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. And the Khazars were a nomadic people who had no traces to Hebraic culture. They had been following pagan, sex-oriented religion until they had embraced Judaism. You know, but these Edomites, they have traces to Hebraic culture, but they set it up. Isaac gave it away. But even if you go back to base man, it goes back to Shem. So he's a Hebrew Edomite.
And I thought I'd go and have a look at Jewish literature to see. And here we see three quotes. And the first is in the 1925 Jewish Encyclopedia, which says that Esau, Edom, is modern Jewry. And of course this is contrary to what most people believe today, which is that the Jews are God's chosen people because they are the Israelites. But here the Jewish literature is saying that they are actually from the tribe of Edom, not the tribe of Israel. In the Jewish Almanac in 1980 it says, strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or Hebrew. And that's because, truthfully speaking, they're not the Hebrews or Israelites, they're really the Edomites. And also we see here in the Encyclopedia Judaica that Edomite Jews began to call themselves Hebrews and Israelites in 1860.
So they didn't even start calling themselves the people, claiming to be the people, because they were still claiming to be Japhet. Through King Bulin, they were claiming descent of Japhet, Ashkenazi. To deal with politics. Because some would, deal with Christianity. Some would, some assimilate to the Byzantines. Some assimilated to Islam. And they could be people of the book. It's kind of a political move, between Christianity and Islam. They could kind of still deal politically. Some Edomites, Ecclesiastes 10:7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon earth, man. And the servants on horses are the Edomites. The princes walking as servants are the Israelites. And we see this is going into the power switch of when we were servants, of when the princes became servants in the Roman Empire, in the Greek Empire. And when that fell, and the same was sealed up for 1,000 years, Jake came up. The princes were back on horses. And we get to see, for the sake of prophecy, the Lord rose up the base man again from even in a base state. From a state the lower than ever. And they brought us to a state lower than ever, all through the Spirit of the Lord, to fulfill prophecy. Daniel 2:21. And he changeth times And he changes in the seasons, because he is Lucifer. He is the morning star. He is the light bringer. He changes time seasons. We serve the true Lucifer. We each serve the true light bringer. We are Lucifers. We are Illuminati. We are illuminated with the knowledge of the Lord, the true side on the right side. It's our Lord who causes I believe it's Venus to rise every day. The true Lucifer, the true light bringer. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise. The true wise are people who hearkening unto this word and the true knowledge, and knowledge to them who know understanding. And we see the true knowledge was that base man was going to take over the earth. If you had the understanding through prophecy, that the Lord could set up a base man that came and established 40 with clubs. And he said he was uprooting trees. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe that was true. The type of spirit the Lord put on him, It almost looked like... Ecclesiastes 9:11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet to the bread to the wise, nor yet riches to the men of understanding, nor yet favor to the men of skill. But time and chance happen to them all, and even to this base man. In such a low state. For promotion. For promotion cometh neither from east, nor west, nor from south, but from thy power. But thy power is thy judge, and he put up one, and he put up down one, and set up another. Behold, I have made thee. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, that were greatly despised. And there was a time, you went through into 1,000 years. All the nation, Israel, Jake, Persia, set a very strong line that Esau couldn't pass. The pride of thy heart hath deceived thee, though thou dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high. Whose habitation is high, saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Especially when you have the largest empire from Greek to the Roman Empire, 100 million. You had all these nations, and you had that military. You had all type of nations warring consistently, trying to bring you down. But when there was a time when prophecy was on his side, you couldn't do nothing to him. His pride, through the inflation and the consistent war, sent him back to the caves. Sent him back to the Caucasus, got him pushed into the Caucasus Mountains. So that's why they had to assimilate you, that end the slavery, and to assimilate you in the system. But we're more slaves than ever. More aspects are under control of Esau than ever in this system, because Jake will never, with hardcore slavery, there's always going to be an uprising. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou set thy nest among the stars, hence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Brought thee. Bhakti Yahweh, Bhakti Yahweh, Bhakti Yahweh, Bhakti Yahweh, Bhakti Yahweh, Bhakti Yahweh, call Halonyim, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem, Rakatash. I don't know if this lesson was edifying.